we bid it at like 20 grand and, it was probably like a $50,000-$60,000 project. There's been times where it's like you do that and you notice it affect other things in your life.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Mo Money, Mo Problems podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to the trials, triumphs, and insights of green industry business owners. I'm your host, Matt Foreman, and today I'm very excited to introduce Jacob Hilland of Hilland Landscaping and Lawn Care out in the Bryan, College Station area of Texas. Jacob's got one of those stories that a lot of people can relate to, where he started out young with just a single mower and now it's turned into a full landscaping company. Jacob, super pumped to have you today, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Of course. So let's just get started. Let's jump right into it. And it might not have even been that long ago for you, but how'd you get started? What was the beginning? How'd you end up where you are now?
Yeah. Great question. So I grew up in Bryan, which is Bryan College Station is one of those places where the two cities are there's the lines between are pretty blurred. But grew up here in Aggieland, home of Texas A&M, and my grandpa is the one who actually got me started mowing at age 10. I started mowing for his neighbors and for my parents' neighbors. And we picked up a push mower off the side of the road that someone had thrown out. And he taught me how to clean and rebuild a carburetor, how to test spark and how to work on equipment and all that good stuff. And so I did that. The first house that I ever mowed actually was my parents' neighbor's house. It was an acre property, and they would usually let it go 2 to 3 months between each mow. It's all Bahia grass. So the first time I mowed it, it was probably about to my chest with how tall I was at the time. And it took me a total of 12 hours over 2 or 3 days. Yeah. So, cause I'm there with my little 21-inch push mower, and the first pass I'm having to do it, I'm, having to push down so the mower's like at an angle as you're going along. And then, have to mow over it like 4 or 5 more times to actually get it down. But that was the start, and then I continued mowing for my grandparents' neighbors and my neighbors from there, being 10 through 16, didn't have a license, so couldn't get very far outside of that.
So, man, they really threw you to the fire.
They
Probably
did, yeah.
gave you a real reason to consider not doing this.
Yeah. I
But
probably got paid like $25 or something for it.
geez, man, man. So, okay, so you started with, gosh, a free mower essentially, and you got to learn
Uh-huh.
off of that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, you started mowing lawns. At what point did you decide, you know what, like I'm gonna actually make a full-fledged business out of this?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So I'll kind of give you a little bit more of the backstory and progression. So when I was probably like 14, I'd started doing like some people's properties that were like not necessarily on my parents' street, but like were within walking distance. And, some of those people would ask like, hey, can you do some light tree trimming or trim some shrubs, maybe mulch flower beds, things like that. And so I did, a lot of that is kind of a natural progression. You're there mowing people's property, and, you know, if you're willing to help with the other things, then a lot of times they just want to hire you to do that, which I know
Mhm.
is the same for a lot of people. I mean, that's why lawn maintenance is such a great in this industry. And then my parents actually helped me out, driving me to jobs and stuff when I was younger, which was pretty cool. I remember the first lady that I started mowing for out of my parents' neighborhood was it was like 10 minutes away or so. And my mom I'd load up all my equipment in the back of her Suburban. She'd drop me off and, come pick me up in an hour and a half later or so. And we actually still have that client. We
That's awesome.
still mow her lawn today. Uh, but yeah, so it grew from there. And then there was like one summer where I hired a friend to help out kind of as needed. And then COVID, of course, was a big, big turning point. So COVID was my junior year of high school. So we were doing online school, which, we weren't doing school basically.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's stuck at home, stuck looking at their yards, and they're like, oh, hey, I should probably do something about that to make it look nice since I'm looking at it all day, every day. And so as many people experience, there is that big boom in landscaping, and like the cheap kid like me were in high demand, for those
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that maybe wouldn't pay a bigger company and definitely like wouldn't hire us as we are now. But I was like perfect position for that kind of time where people just wanted some help in the yard, maybe some simple projects, some cheap labor kind of thing. And so that's when I hired my first like really full time guy. And we had built up some more mowing properties. And I was driving at this point as well. I was able to like buy vehicles just from the money that I had made over the years growing up. Like my first car was a minivan, and I bought and sold it before I ever had my license. And then I bought a half ton truck, and so we used that. And I think borrowed a trailer for a little bit, and then eventually was able to buy my own. And buy mowers as I had a little John Deere tractor mower that had the turn radius of a 1 ton truck, and then eventually I found a really good deal on a nice commercial zero turn. And so we continued to build things up. And, as it got like junior and senior year of high school, I would say is really when it became more of like a full time business, started doing it seriously. And I mean, it was nice having the money as a kid, it's like expenses are pretty low. And so, I got to buy like a convertible Camaro and just have fun and stuff. So that was a good time.
Hey,
And in Texas, you can't register an LLC till you're 18. Uh, so we were just kind of under the table at that point. And then, like the month I turned 18, we registered as an LLC and, became official and all that good stuff. And at that point, like I had hired more people. But yeah, that was kind of the turning point. COVID was definitely the beginning of that. And it really just continued as a more of a natural progression. Me being in school, I wasn't pushing super hard for really it to grow. I mean,
mhm,
I wanted to get more clients and make more money and keep, the couple guys that I had busy. But it's like people just kept asking and we did good work and so we got referred to their friends and to other people. And for us where we were and me having no bills, like that was okay for me. I
yeah,
kind of had it easy, if you will. Most people don't get that luxury, if you will, starting out to where it's like, I don't need to make that much.
mhm,
I mean, a lot of people are, they have bills that depend on that, and I didn't, which I'm, very thankful for. I think that was a blessing, and I mean, it's nice. I got to be a kid some too.
yeah, and I mean, it's amazing to hear, obviously, how young you started and getting to kind of have those low overheads, as low as they can possibly get in this
Right.
industry. But I'm really interested in those early days because I mean, running a business, any kind of business, is not
Mhm.
easy, and it's not immediately taught in high school. So,
Right.
like, what were some of those struggles that you initially faced? Obviously, like it's awesome to hear. Like, such. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was gathering that you made your first hire while you were still in high school. So now you have mouths to feed even beyond your own and your own families, but, like, what were some of those early struggles, like, in saying, "Okay, hey, like, we're a business. We're not just, like, going out there mowing a lawn and then coming home." Like, now you got payroll.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 So I guess starting out, like some of the early struggles were is just learning, the learning curve. And I love learning. And I mean, I think as a business owner to be decent, like that's a requirement, honestly. You have to learn to be flexible and adaptable. And so I mean, I remember all my friends would make fun of me, but I had like my Neil Sperry landscape book with me in class and was reading that, which Neil Sperry is a big Texas landscape guy. And yeah, I'd be sitting in class, I'd finish my math homework or whatever, and I'd be reading about plants and stuff and studying different types of plants. Cause I learned that, really the more that you're able to identify plants with people, especially when you're young, it builds trust. So, cause I mean, that's one of the, I guess that's probably the hardest thing or one of the biggest challenges was just everyone's perception of you as a kid, and I mean, I was a kid, so there's just a lot of connotations that come with that, and you just have to prove that you're not the same as every other kid,
Mhm.
and not that I didn't make mistakes, I'm sure, and there's definitely things, that were run poorly starting out, but yeah, I mean, I think just like learning all the different facets of business, of course, was a challenge. Like I said, very blessed to be able to like have you know, kind of like 8 years bill free to do that to some degree and just doing research and learning how to do new things. And then, yeah, once I hired people, I mean, starting out, it was just friends. So it's not like they have families to support either. They're kind of just doing it for the summer money or whatever as well. But it is difficult when you hire friends and it's like basically you have to fire your friends. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's never fun or having those conversations of like, hey, like I remember I had this one guy that I knew and had worked for me for a while and like he was just the slowest worker that you've ever seen. Snail's pace.
Yeah.
Like, it was painful to watch him work. It was so like, I didn't know that anybody could work that slow until I saw him, and just, like, navigating things like that as, like, a 16, 17-year-old is difficult,
Mhm.
especially when it's friends, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think that there's times where hiring friends is great, and I think there's a lot of people in our industry that, maybe not necessarily friends, but hire people that they know. And there's, I mean, sometimes that's the best way to go as opposed to finding, someone off the street or someone on Indeed or whatever. But there is an added layer of difficulty that comes with that because you're more involved than just a boss employee relationship,
Mhm.
you know. So I think that was, definitely a challenge. And then, yeah, people's, perception of, having this kid come out and bid on projects and, trusting me to do a good job, and like on mowing, it's like, most 16-year-old plus kids can mow decently. I mean some can't, but it's like but when you get to the landscaping projects, there's just a whole nother layer of attention to detail,
Mhm.
and things that can be messed up, honestly. So, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of overcoming that, and I feel like even still now, like, being 22, that's still an issue because most of the competition, the sales guys are 30 and 40 and have been doing this for maybe as long as me, but when a client, sees them come out, that's not what goes through their mind.
Sure.
They're like they look at me and it's like, "Oh, well, he's probably been doing this for 2 years 'cause, he couldn't have been doing it any longer even though I've been doing it, maybe a lot longer than some people."
Do you get some pretty noticeable pushback because of your age?
I think there have been times that has been the case, and it's not necessarily I mean, obviously, a lot of times it's gonna be more unspoken, you know what I
Sure.
mean? I mean, no
Right.
one's gonna be, like, gonna say it directly to your face most of the time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there have been some times where I've noticed that, like, the clients, the way that they treated me, I was like, they would never I
Never.
don't think they would ever treat anyone else like this. Like,
Mhm.
it was pretty clear that they knew I was a kid and thought they could just push me around kinda thing. So, yeah, I had a really big job when I was, like, 18. That was probably one of the worst jobs ever, and that was the case. Like, the guy was just kind of a bully, I guess, would be, like, the way to put it.
Mhm.
It was we bid it at, like, 20 grand and, it was probably, like, a 50, $60,000 project.
Ouch.
Which, like, our overhead was low. We didn't,
Right.
like, lose a bunch of money on it or anything, but, like, he was getting other bids, and they were probably around that range, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So and then he was just had maybe some, expectations that were unrealistic for what he was paying for,
Yeah.
which there's kind of a hard balance there. I mean, I learned a lot from that job, and I'm very thankful for that. But I mean, it's hard because it's like to some degree, it's like you want to be the professional company. You want to do a good job for the customer and make them happy, but also at like 18, there's only so much you can do. And
Mhm.
that's kind of a humbling experience, because it's like, how do you wrestle with that? I mean, because like, yeah, I mean, like I said, you have that desire to be great, but it's like you just don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And that's like for me, especially, I feel like that's hard to come to grips with. And, part of it is probably somewhat of a pride thing, just wanting to do a good job and be the best that we can. But there is also just a reality and not like a cop out way of like, oh, sorry, I'm just a kid, like, and not like in that kind of way. But like, I just, only have so much experience handling issues and stuff. And like there were a bunch of change orders and like I didn't handle that
Mm,
super well. Like I didn't really have a process down for that. There was stuff that he changed. And then, when I gave him the price at the end, and then we were like kind of going back and forth on that. Yeah, I mean, there were just some different things. So stuff like that is hard. But I guess kind of going back to your question, like I think it's definitely less and less, but there have been times where I know that I was only treated that way because I was younger. And like that's just, pretty clear.
sure.
But I mean, I feel like to some degree that does have to factor into probably a lot of the people that, don't get back to me. Like I said, it's not necessarily something they're gonna say to your face, but it is something that, is in the back of their mind
Yeah.
for some people,
Yeah.
and to some degree, which I think is a valid consideration.
Sure. But I think as you continue to obviously like you know your stuff, like you're probably not stumbling over your words. You're very confident in what you do, and you keep getting
Right.
better over time. I
Mhm.
mean, even your uniforms alone, very professional. You got branded trucks and everything.
Mhm.
I'm sure like the misconception of, "Oh, he's just chucking the truck," or "He's just a
Uh-huh.
young kid, and it's probably gonna
Yeah.
be young kid prices." I think that's probably far out the window now because you
Mhm.
do have such, like, good branding, a very professional experience, and obviously you know what you're talking about. So, I'm sure that's just gonna
Right.
continue to get better and better over time. Obviously, you're
Mhm.
gonna get older and older over time, but yeah, I mean, and it yeah, that sucks to hear though about that big project and, the probably underbid, but, that's interesting to me though. So you obviously again started in the mowing side of things, and now you're even like in the consideration for these large five-figure projects. So
Mhm.
maybe just help me, wrap my head around and everybody else listening. Like, what are now the suite of services that you offer? So we went from just mowing to okay, now we offer what?
Yeah. So, um, we kind of have two sides of the business. One is the lawn side, and one is the like landscape maintenance and construction side. So for the lawn maintenance, we've moved over to like really full service where we kind of do everything. Like we can do, I mean, our ideal package with the customer, and we do have a few residential and commercial customers that are like this. Like we do all the full mowing, all that, bed maintenance. So keeping it weed free, doing all the fertilizing for the lawn, doing a irrigation audit each month, making adjustments. And then if there are repairs, letting them know and sending the estimate for that. And then if they want to do mulching or aerating, top dressing, any of that kind of stuff. So we offer, like overseeding, like we'll do hydro seeding if need be. And so we kind of gotten into more of that full service lawn care,
Mhm.
and like even if it's maybe not everything we do in house, like for the fertilizing, we actually sub that out to a fertilizing company that does an excellent job. They do better than we could,
Sure.
honestly. It would take a lot of research and training and time to get to the point where we could do as good as they do, and
Um,
just being real about that stuff. So kind of on that side, that's what we do. I got my irrigation license at 18, I guess, probably. Yeah. As I guess it was about 4 years ago now. So, yeah, we do irrigation stuff, do repairs, and we've done a couple installs. Haven't gotten a whole lot into that just because I have to be on those jobs as the only licensed person in our company right now. And then on the landscape construction and maintenance side, we just continue to expand what we offer. I mean, it kind of starts out with mulching and planting, and then to flower bed construction, and like now we do like masonry type work with stone, like stone edging, mortaring, that kind of stuff. Like we'll do water features. Drainage is big here. A
mm,
lot of drainage issues. I really enjoy doing that because it's very repeatable process. Once you get the guys dialed in on that, you can really make some money off drainage and doing it right. Because like most people just don't do drainage right,
yeah.
unfortunately. And a lot of times they're hiring the cheap guy, and it's like, "Oh, hey, can you tie your drainage into what they did?" And I tell them every time, "No," because I pretty much 95% guarantee that once we do that, it's not gonna work right because what they did is not sloped right, or it's all filled in, all clogged or whatever. But yeah, we do drainage. We do, cleanups and tree work. Most of our tree work we actually sub out now. We found a really good sub for that I've become friends with, and like we have an arborist that we use to consult on stuff as well, which has been very helpful. So we do tree planting. Man, I mean, we've kind of gotten to where like we can do it all. Like we do fences, we'll do gutters. Obviously, we sub that out. But that works pretty well with drainage, because a lot of times if people don't have gutters, doing a bunch of drainage stuff is not going to help a whole lot. Or the drainage is going to have to be way more extensive because the water's going everywhere instead of
Mhm.
just concentrated in the 6 or 8 downspouts or whatever it is on the house. We do a lot of hardscaping, like we've done paver patios, walkways, flagstone, all that kind of stuff. And I've really enjoyed continuing to learn on kind of best practices for that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Usually higher ticket. Yeah, like I said, kind of gotten into. I know there's a few things that I'm not thinking of, but as far as outdoor stuff, it's like we can do it or we have a sub for it most of the time. We've gotten into where like I've bid on pergolas, and I just sent this 6-figure bid for a pavilion that this guy wants.
Let's go.
So yeah, I mean, like, some of what we do is kind of general contracting stuff too.
Mhm.
I mean, we don't do pools right
Yeah.
now.
Yet.
I don't think
It
we
sounds
ever
like
will do.
it sounds like you're
Yeah,
just
I mean,
adding
maybe.
them, you're stacking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the few things we don't do right now is pools. But as far as outdoor stuff, I'm having grown up here, and my dad having he owns a construction company, and he and my mom have been here since college. So there's a lot of connections. My
Mhm.
father-in-law is in construction and roofing, and then I just know a lot of people from being here, from meeting other business owners. So I have a lot of connections, which is cool, and the kind of things you get to leverage to use for growth and doing some of those more difficult projects, especially when you can do something for someone, so they don't have to go and hire 5 or 6 different companies to to get their full project done. And there's
Mhm.
definitely value in that.
Oh, yeah. So I'm really interested in hearing about how you've built your connections in terms of like subbing out work. I love it. I love especially what you said because I'm a big proponent of that. Sub out what obviously you think you and your team might not be the best at because you still want to
Mhm.
provide the best results. And
Yeah.
there's no sense in saying we're going to be providing the best results when you can get a sub that could also do that, but probably
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
Not to mention the licenses and everything and all the training and the expenses
Right. Yeah,
that
yeah,
go
yeah.
into that. So you're subbing out fertilization and you're subbing out the tree work and everything.
Mhm.
I'm really interested in a couple of things. So, number 1, your company name is your name. So your
Mhm.
reputation, your personal reputation's on the line here. So,
Yeah.
like, what do you do to obviously, like, if this sub is great, then awesome. That's not to say that nobody is mistake free. So, like, how do you handle any potential mistakes or issues that are on the sub side of things?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my belief is it's the same as if we were doing it. I mean, because my guys make mistakes and we have to fix it. And, I mean, I'll just put it like this. I would say that probably 80% of companies can do a really good job on stuff almost all the time. Probably 80% of companies can do 95% of jobs mistake free. And when I say mistake free, like, larger mistakes, like things that customers notice, right?
Mhm.
And I think that 5% of mistakes is really what can make all the difference on the where those companies rank, or not rank, but like how well those companies do, how they handle those issues. And I mean, as every business owner, that's a big part of what we do is we handle issues, we solve problems. And so I think it's extremely important to handle those issues well, whether it's your team doing it or subs doing it, and being willing to do that. And at the end of the day, realizing and I'm guilty of this as well, but I know a lot of people, they get caught up in the money of it, the financials, right? And it's like, well, I don't have the money in this project to redo it if it was done wrong. Let's say that the concrete was done wrong and it needs to be ripped up and completely redone. Dramatic example. But you think about, like, is your reputation worth that?
Mhm.
Is that what you want to be known for? And I think it just being honest and upfront quickly with the customer goes a long way. You need to let them know of those issues as soon as you like find out and quickly are able to assess that so that they know, right? Because you want to build a project that you're proud of and that you can sleep at night knowing that you completed for that person. And you want them to be happy. I mean, that's the goal. I mean, they're paying you
Yep.
because they want you to do a good job, and you're doing it hopefully not just for the money, but as something that you can be proud of and, that they get to show their friends like, "Hey, look at this pergola that we just had built," or, "Look at this concrete slab we had poured." So, yeah, I mean, I would say, like, just be willing to handle those problems in the same way, and it's different with different subs, honestly, because those relationships are all different, and in my mind, you have different levels of subs. I mean, because there's some subs that we use that, like, they're a full-blown company,
Mhm.
and we just use them simply because they are the absolute best. Like, for example, the gutters, like, the guy that we use is expensive, honestly. Like, he's not like your standard sub pricing that you can mark up a bunch, and we do still mark it up, of course, but it's literally just he is by far the best in the area, and we wanna be able to provide the best, and so we use him. So that's I mean, that's like your atypical sub. That's your top tier A-level sub, and
Mm.
for those people, like, if they're messing something up, you call them and they're gonna fix it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It like, you expect that they would fix it, and, like, with him, he would fix it. I know that if there were issues that he would fix it, and, like, his gutters, they have a lifetime warranty. So, like, they're on the hook for that. And then some subs, like, I would say, like, for concrete, for example, like, some of those guys, some of them, like, if they have to redo a concrete job, they're gonna go out of business kinda thing. Like, they literally just can't do it. And that's, why they're the sub to some degree,
Mhm.
if you will. And sometimes you just have to eat that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And that's, it comes down, like I said, to a reputation thing over just money. So
Mhm.
you gotta take care of your customers or you're gonna go out of business.
Yeah. So, how do you have like a secret sauce on how you find and build these kind of partnerships that you have with subs?
Yeah, great question. There's a lot of different ways, and there's short answer is no. There's not a formula for finding the perfect people, but it really is just a networking thing
Mhm.
is the best way to find those subs. Like there's local or like business owner groups that I go to and meet people. And when I hear about connections that I think would be helpful, I start meeting those people. And obviously not everyone I meet is helpful or, beneficial, but then they know who I am and I know who they are, and we can help each other out. I mean, those connections are truly invaluable.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think one tool I honestly have used is like there's a Facebook group here. It's called like Contractor Connections. And like sometimes I'll put something out there on that, and I get like 10 different responses. Like there is something we needed some dirt work done and I wanted someone that was a skilled skid steer operator. And so I put out something, and I for that I probably had like 20 something people respond. And I think really you can kind of just tell by the way that people respond and the way that they message if they're going to be an okay fit. And obviously you have to try them out, and you have to know which jobs you can try them out on.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And like which subs to use on which jobs. So you do have to be careful about that. Like there's a fence guy that I use, and like his guys smoke on the job, and for a lot of jobs that doesn't matter. But there's some people that you just got to know that if they have guys smoking on at their property, they're not going to be very happy.
Yeah.
Uh, so just being realistic, and that kind of where that tier of sub comes in, and just being realistic about what the customer is going to expect and what they're going to want. But yeah, I think, like I said, Facebook, great resource. Facebook groups for your area. Like if there's one specifically that, you know, have like contractors, like that one's the perfect example. Like if you can get into one of those kind of things, super helpful. But other than that, just networking, you
Mhm.
know, listen to other people. Like if you go to someone's house, you say, "Man, those gutters look really good. Who did those?" You give them a call. You know what I mean? And you start just be proactive about it.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and that really helps cut down on one of what we see across the entire nation, is like one of the hardest things to solve, and that's employment. So,
Mhm.
I mean, having great partnerships, having great subs really does allow you to not have to always worry about like, am I even staffed to handle these jobs right now?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
now you get to tap into somebody else's staff.
Yeah.
So right now, like where you're at with your company, do you have a good idea on like what is your what is your next stage of growth? Like what's your current challenge that you're in? And where do we think we're like how are we going to break through that? Like what are our next steps in the company?
Yeah, great question. So right now we're at 2 crews. So we have our lawn maintenance and our landscaping crew. And honestly, our biggest issue the past really 2.5 years as I've stepped out of the field more and more is getting a solid lead for those crews and finding that person that's gonna stay and make it where I don't have to fill in so much. So that's kind of like what I would classify as the foundation that we can build upon, because that really takes care of our 2 major parts of business. And I think once we have that good foundation, then we can continue to grow from there. So, yeah, we have one solid crew lead right now. I unfortunately had to fire our mowing crew lead a few weeks ago, and so I've been filling in on that personally, which is not what I should be doing. I actually enjoy it. I enjoy just being out there
Getting
mowing with
back
the
to the
guys.
basics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's enjoyable,
Yeah.
but it's like I get home and I still have all these other things I need to do, and that
Yeah.
part's not so enjoyable. But yeah, I actually just came from interviewing a guy that we're sending a job offer to start Monday for that mowing crew lead position. And so I think that is, like I said, the biggest challenge that we've had is finding those good people that are going to stay. And then I think once we have that set, then we can really focus a little bit more on growth, or it really I can focus on growth. Because I mean, to be honest, when I'm on a on the truck mowing 50 hours a week, I can't focus on growth. Just, being realistic with the amount of time that I have, like I'm just trying to keep up on bids and all the other back end stuff that I'm responsible for. And so, yeah, and then we wanna grow, and, the hope would be is right now we're mowing 4 days a week, which is actually super nice with all the rain we get because we still stay behind. You know?
Mhm.
It's just, every 3 days you get downpour, and and it's hard to stay caught up, but, our hope is to get that to a full 5 days a week and then eventually bring that to 2 crews and, um tighten up the routes. I know that, the margins in lawn maintenance are in route density,
Mhm.
and but we're just not at a point where we have the volume where we can be that picky, to be completely honest. And
Sure.
I mean that's kind of how it is starting out. But we want to get to that point, and we want to get to where we have the capacity to do larger jobs efficiently. Because
Mhm.
right now we can do larger jobs. We are set up to where we can do 50 to $100,000 jobs. Obviously for those, usually we're gonna have subs helping out on stuff, to help things move along. Like you said, you don't need to have the staff to get $100,000 job done in 6 weeks or whatever. That's what subs are for, and using their expertise and specialty on the things that they can do faster than your guys could anyway, you
Mhm.
know? So, but yeah, like I said, getting to where we can do those efficiently and getting the guys trained up on all the things so that can continue to grow, and we can have more people on that crew. I think that would kind of be the next step, as opposed to 2 landscape construction crews, would just
Mhm.
be to have a bigger landscape construction crew. And it's like maybe you send out 2 guys to knock out a smaller job while the other guys are on a different job. But then that way we have you know, maybe it's 6 people on a job to get things moving quickly, because there's just a lot going on and you need the manpower on those jobs to get in and get out. And I think that's one of the issues right now is on some of those bigger jobs, it's like it's just taking way too long. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like we're dragging our feet, and part of it is the guys, they need to continue to be trained on how to do those things efficiently, but also it's like literally they just need more manpower. So part of it's on them, part of it's on us. But yeah, that does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like one of the biggest parts of your bottleneck is you as the owner. Obviously, you can't be everywhere at
100%.
once.
Yeah.
You gotta get out of the field, you gotta get off the mower, unfortunately, even if you
Right.
love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
If you so okay, so hopefully, this new crew lead that's coming in on Monday frees you up from that. Where do you think you should be spending your time?
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So, I mean, ideally, I would be spending my time focusing on growing the business and making connections and networking.
Mhm,
Right now, I am also doing sales, and that's just kind of the reality of where we are.
sure.
You know.
It's a
So,
tough
and I
one. The owner's always going to be, especially if your name's on the company and it's your name,
yeah.
is always going to be the best salesman,
Right. Yeah.
unfortunately, and that's just one of the really tough realities.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the hope would be to be, like I said, focusing on growth and being less or being more passive in the business, if you will, so that I can focus on those things. And then just like mentoring, I would say,
Nice.
not just training, but mentoring those people, the crew leads, the project managers, the sales guy eventually, once we get to that point and getting them to where I'm not fostering customer relationships, they're doing that and they're keeping the business running. And then like I'm also continuing to improve systems, I think would be one of the other big things. And I think we've been doing a good job of that on developing systems and then actually writing them down and sharing that with the guys so that we're on board and we have a repeatable process for everything we do, and that just takes a lot of time,
Yeah,
honestly. And so we're working on that, and that's something I want to continue to focus on as I get off the mower.
yeah. So, I'm really interested in, understanding your area.
Mhm.
Obviously, well, it seems like Texas, at least from my minimal understanding, you guys still get snow. Maybe not in your area, maybe it does, I don't know. But do you have seasonality with your business? Like, are there times when you're just like super slow and then there's other times when you just like can't keep up?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So where we are, I mean, Texas is massive, so there's a lot of degrees of snow that we get. So for us, we probably get snow every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
And it's pretty minimal. So there is no snow removal businesses here. That would be a poor investment. So, I will say that like 2 or 3 hours north, some of those places, there's some snow removal guys.
Mm,
They get some snow. There's, like snow where you're not going out and driving kind of thing. So also, nobody in Texas knows how to drive in the snow. It's like, yeah, I saw this guy, just real quick tangent. This was so funny to me. The roads were like barely icy, like, hardly at all. Like, some of the roads that don't get driven on a lot had a little thin layer of ice, but most of the roads didn't. And this guy is putting out a message on social media talking about using chains to drive down the highway, like, from here to Dallas.
I'm sure
And
nobody laughed at him.
right, of course, yeah. It made me chuckle, I mean, like,
Uh-huh.
I was like, "This is the epitome of, like, Texans can't handle winter and
Yeah.
don't know what the heck to do." So, anyways, obviously, things slow down for the winter, but no, we don't get a lot of snow. So, kind of like spring is, the spring rush, same as everybody else, is super slammed,
Mhm.
and then winter is slower, which is super frustrating because like it's not necessarily that, like, everything it's too cold to do stuff. It's people just, like, have in their minds, "Oh, I'm gonna wait till spring."
Yeah.
Even if it's on, like, a hardscaping project. I'm like, "No, please, let me do the hardscaping and stuff during the winter. Let me do the drainage before it's pouring rain every 3 days?"
Right.
It's it's just like people have that mindset that you have to wait for spring to do everything. And I
Yep.
always tell people, I'm like, maybe let's wait till spring to put the plants in, but you have like a week's worth of prep work that needs to be done. Let us come out, do the prep work, and then in the spring, you get priority on the schedule. You're not having to wait 3 months because that's how far we're booked out to do stuff.
Mhm.
And so the way we handle it is we actually 3 years or yeah, 2.5 years ago, we started a Christmas light company and to keep the guys busy. And it's kind of funny. It's like every year since then, like the Christmas lights has grown, obviously, but we're also less and less slow during the winter.
No, of
So,
course.
and I think part of that, right, of course, as soon as we start that, it's like
Yep.
now I'm like, how do I can't even get all the landscaping stuff done, I definitely lost a couple jobs because I was like, I don't have time to do this until after Christmas light season is over, which is okay, you know.
It sounds like a great problem to have. It's like, "Oh, man,
Yeah,
money because I'm too busy making money."
right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of how we handle that, and that's been a lot of fun. I've done a lot of market research over that over the past few years and learned a lot about the right way to do that
Mhm.
and the right way to make money. I think in a few years that is going to be way more profitable than the landscaping is,
Oh,
honestly.
man, the margins are crazy. Yeah,
Mhm.
I absolutely love it
Yeah.
when any of our clients are doing, holiday light installations. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that's been a lot of fun. So that's how we handle the seasonality there. I
Great.
mean, because really it comes down to like the reason we started it was to keep the guys busy. And, I mean, because now we are at the point where, like, we do have people and their families that are depending on us,
Mhm.
you know? And my belief is that if you take care of the people that work for you, that they're going to take care of you. And, that's what you want. It's the same thing all the way around. Like, it's you take care of your customers and give them a great experience and then they love it and they refer you, you take care of your employees and, keep them busy, keep their bills paid and they enjoy coming to work. They want to work hard, you know, and
Yeah.
it's that mutual benefit for us and for
Yeah.
them. So I'm big on that. On if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you.
Yeah, absolutely, and that goes beyond just, like, what's happening out in the field. Like, yes, it's nice to have the beautiful before and after, but it's really about, like, the continued nurturing of both your customers and your team beyond
Hmm.
the job site. It's all about managing the human element of it. It's like, great, yes, like, obviously, you should be very, very proud of the work that's been performed, but
Hmm.
was it a struggle even getting there? Was it a struggle, like, everything in between? That's what really matters, and that's what's gonna stick with your crew, that's really gonna stick with your employee or, the customers too, is like, "Man,
Hmm.
did we have a really good experience with it?" Because we could have gotten probably the same outcome, but
Right.
it's the experience beyond just what's happening out on the field, and it's that level of care, and that's really where it comes down to, and I'm big on that. I wanna be very intentional, very thoughtful, bring that human element into just running business, again, both for your customers and for your team, because
Mhm.
the outpouring of just the desire to keep going and move forward and to give back, is just so obvious, from yourself and from your team too. It creates a
Mhm.
great culture,
Yeah.
a lot less burnout.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, uh, I love asking this question. I know you already brought up one, and so if we wanna stick with that one, that's totally cool. But I don't know if you have any horror stories. I don't know if you severely misquoted another job. I don't know if there's like just this series of terrible things that were like unpredictable on a job. Everything keeps breaking. But do you have a moment that just like forever lives in the back of your head that you're like, man, people would laugh at what I had to go through?
Yeah. Let me think. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that one example was a really good one. Yeah, I'll share a little bit about that one, and then I have another quick one that I'll
Cool.
share on as
I love
well.
hearing them.
So, yeah, okay. So, 18-year-old me. This is summer of 2022.
Fresh LLC.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I'm kind of doing it all at this point. Like I'm running the landscaping crew. Like we had a guy that ran the mowing, but I was running this job, hired a bunch of new people for it, mostly kids. like high school kids around my age and stuff. Yeah, like I said, probably like a $40,000 job. We bid like 18 or 20 grand for it, and of course he accepts our bid, and the first
Cha-ching.
I was very unwise. I got big eyes about the cost of the job. My dad had actually bid a job for him a couple years ago, and
The
well,
same guy?
actually, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I don't think he actually bid the job. I think he went out there and never sent him a bid because he could tell that.
No.
Yeah. And my dad told me that, and I was just stupid and didn't listen. I mean, I think it was a helpful lesson, but I sure wish I would have listened to him,
Yeah.
you know? And I will say, like, there are some red flags that, like, I didn't recognize at the time, but, like, when I was walking through the project with him initially, he's talking about how this crew came and installed his flooring and messed up a few things, and he made them redo the whole floor, and he was super proud of that,
He's telling you that he made another company do something.
Right, yeah, like,
Alright.
he enjoys sticking it to him kinda,
Yeah.
if you will. So, like, 2 red flags there, so don't get big eyes on projects like that unless
Don't
it's
pay
really
for
worth
money.
it. Yeah, be willing to say no to
Yeah.
those people, and now I can spot those people pretty well, and, you either just don't send them a bid or send them at way too high and hope they don't accept
And
it,
then
but
sub out the
sometimes that's the
entire thing.
worst. Sometimes you bid it way too high and they still accept it and you're like, "Dang it."
Dang.
You know? That has happened a couple times,
Yeah.
but at least it's a little more worth it at that point, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But anyways, there was that, and then there were besides the change order stuff, like, we talked a lot back and forth about that, and that was pretty frustrating, and, looking back, a lot of that was on me, but it's also like, "Hey," like, at the end of the day, like, you asked for this stuff to be changed, we did it, and now you don't wanna pay for it, even though we're probably 20 grand under any other company that bid on the work, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's like, "Come on, man." Like, you know, just realizing that as this job goes on, and then the 2 things that, like, were frustrating is, one is we cut through an irrigation wire. I wasn't licensed to do irrigation just yet. I was in that process. And so I'd been using this guy he's a plumber and also does irrigation. My dad had used him for plumbing stuff for forever, and he was going to put an Adazone on there. And so I told the guy that, and it was going to be all good. Like, that is not going to be too bad. And he's like, "No, I want to put it back exactly like it was. Like, you have to rerun the whole wire and all this stuff." And it's like, it's still gonna function exactly the same, like, like, you do that so that you don't have to run an all new wire. So that was one of the things that was difficult. And then the other thing, and this was like a big oops, like, so, okay, just backstory, summer 2022, worst drought that generational drought. Like, we had, like, a month and a half or maybe even over 2 months of drought. And so we put in these 30-gallon Nellie R. Stevens Hollies. And since I wasn't licensed to do irrigation, we weren't messing with the irrigation at all. He was doing that. And so the project was supposed to originally be like 4 weeks. It was going slower than I wanted it to. And also, with all the change orders and stuff, it wound up taking like 6 or 7 weeks. And so because of that, we put in the plants too early, basically, because we weren't anticipating the additional work as well. And so we put the plants in and he overwaters them during this summer drought and like half of them die. Which a 30-gallon LER Stevens is like, I mean, it's not super expensive, but they're not cheap by any
Yeah.
means. And so that was a really hard conversation because he's like, "Well, the job isn't finished. Like, you need to replace these." And I'm like, "Well, for one, you overwatered them. You were in charge of the irrigation, and like it was a thing of where I was like calling companies all over the area. I was like, "Hey, do y'all offer warranty on your plants? Like, I'm not crazy, right?"
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like, like with us not taking care of the irrigation, there's just no way we can be responsible for that. And so that was like, it was like, come on, man, And like that was one of the things where I could tell he was just like trying to basically take advantage of me
Mhm.
as being
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and then the other one was, this is kind of a unique story that I wanted to share. This lady, she was a single lady, maybe had kids. She lived in my parents' neighborhood, and we were doing this landscape job for her. and we did all the work, and basically she just didn't pay us. Like, she wouldn't pay us, and, like, we did a good job, and, like, she was upset about, like, a couple little things that we were able to fix, and then she still wouldn't pay us, and, like, at the time, I was, like, really, like, upset by that, which, like, obviously, it's upsetting at kinda any stage, but, when at that point, I was probably, like, 17, and, like, that was pretty disappointing, and, like, I kinda took it to heart, and, like, especially starting out, I feel like, you are the business, and, like, I was a business starting out, so it's like, well, like, what did I do wrong kinda thing, and then, I like to share this because I was actually, like, this was, like, a couple months after we had did it. I think we still hadn't gotten paid, and I was just convicted that I was actually super bitter about that, towards her, and so I just felt convicted to go talk with her and just kinda let her know. It's like, I just felt like I needed to go to her and basically just confess that to her that I was angry with her and upset and just apologize for that, and I'm so thankful that I did, because, like, I get in there and we're talking and she kinda just breaks down. Like, she had just lost her husband, which I had no idea, and was just going through a super tough time, and I got to pray over her, and that was really sweet, and honestly, I don't even remember if we wound up getting paid for the job or not, and didn't really care,
Right.
at that point. It wasn't a huge amount or anything, like, 800 to 1,500, something like that. But that was just I like to share that because it was, kind of a horror story of for me, like, as a 17-year-old not getting paid, like, that was a big deal, which, like, now, like, I feel like I have the tools to navigate that well, but that was a big deal at the time. But like I said, I like to share that because it's important to sometimes slow down and find out what's going on and not stay bitter towards people. Because there's been times where it's like you do that and you notice it affect other things in your life. And like for me personally, I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't think anybody wants to be bitter necessarily, but sometimes you just gotta kinda check yourself and be upfront about that and be willing to have uncomfortable conversations with people. And really that's one of the things I love about running a business is interacting with people, Like I enjoy doing that and I know a lot of other people do too. And for me, I love being able to just love on other people when good things are happening to them or when they're having a really hard time, and that's not even really just a business thing, that's more of a personal thing,
Yeah.
and there's benefits for that in business, and that's, how you build a good reputation, but, just personally, it's great to be able to use this, like, the blessing that I've, been able to run this business and it's been able to support me and my wife, and then we get to bless other people, and I think that's really what it's about is just stewarding the things that we've been given, whether that's money or a business or our time or our talent, whatever it is. So,
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that too. That really is an important thing, whether you're a business owner or an employee or whoever,
mhm,
remembering, like, the other human on the other end of it. Obviously, 1, you don't know what someone's going through, but 2, yeah, just loving on somebody and being able to just show your character and that's you're just gonna be rewarded, immeasurable amounts. There's not even a multiplication to it. It's gonna be rewarding, and then releasing the bitterness too in itself is already a massive win. So
yeah.
no, thanks for sharing that because I know that you're not alone in the whether it's not getting paid or things not going exactly to plan or eating costs
Mhm,
or whatever it is. But I mean, I think you're a great testament to, you know what, like that these bad things may or may not happen, but you just keep moving forward, still loving on people,
mhm.
continuing to grow the business and just focus forward. I think you've done a great job with that, and, so thank you for, sharing those stories. Because yeah, I mean, typically, these are just like, "Man, these suck," but, yeah, you really showed that, like, yeah, they can suck, but it's all about how you respond to it, and I think you've done an incredible
Right.
job there.
Well, right, and, sometimes And a lot of times that's all you can control
Yeah.
is how you respond.
Yep. 100%. Well, Jacob, we're just about wrapped up here. I like to
Okay.
do this kind of like outro part where you just talk to everybody watching. Who are you? Who do you serve? What do you do? Just kind of like the elevator pitch on your company, what you're building. Just go ahead and let everyone know.
Yeah. Yeah. So my name is Jacob Hilland. I'm the owner of Hilland Landscaping and Lawn Care. So we're a full service lawn maintenance and landscape construction company. And we really enjoy serving our clients in a way that they have peace of mind about what we're doing. So they don't have to worry about what's going on in their yard. And we love being able to do that for people and provide that value to be able to be one company that takes care of all or almost all of their outdoor woes. Whether that is for a young couple that's working all the time and don't have time to take care of it, whether that's, middle-aged family with kids that love spending time outside and we get to build and maintain that area for them, or it's, a retired couple that empty nesters that are too old to be doing it, but they love, sitting in their rocking chair and enjoying the yard or whatever it may be. uh, we love to foster that opportunity for those people. And so our services are tailored to be able to do that, to where we can be a one-stop shop for people's outdoor spaces, for building those and maintaining those and creating a great experience that people get to enjoy while we're doing the job, but they also get to enjoy it for years to come, something that's going to be sustainable. And we just love to bless people in that way.
Amazing. Well, Jacob, it's been an honor having you on. You're a great man with great character. You built an incredible business. So, congratulations to what you've built so far, and congratulations to where you're going, because there's obviously a lot of upward trajectory ahead. So, thank you for taking the time to join me here, share your story, sharing all the wins, all the struggles throughout your time and all your growth. And I hope whoever's listening got a lot out of this. If you think anybody else might also get something out of it, please feel free to share. But that's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Mo Money, Mo Problems. Jacob, thank you again so much for being here. It was amazing talking to you, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Matt. I enjoyed it.
Right.